Hello, good evening. Can you hear me? Hello, hello.
Yeah, hello, we
Yeah,
can
hello,
hear
we can
you.
hear you.
Okay. Thank you. So I sent a message. I don't know whether you've seen it. Good evening, everybody. I guess we're having a slight challenge. So assisting her now. So please be patient with us. We'll start pretty soon. I'm sorry about that. Hello, hello.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes,
Okay.
we hear
All
you.
right.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll be right back.
No
Thank you.
problem.
All right. Thank you all so much for your patience. Our guest has finally joined us. Auntie Dorothy, can you hear me, please?
Yeah, I
Hello?
can hear you, Abby.
Oh, great, great. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're able to make it. All right, so this is the Abby IMANI Reveals show. This is where we speak. We are real so that we can live, and not just any life, but the life that Christ has given us. Shall we say a word of prayer? Father, we thank you so much. Thank you that you're in control of everything. Thank you for another opportunity to talk about life, talk about children, and how to train them in your way. We ask, Lord, that you speak to us. You said that your kingdom belongs to them. So teach us, Lord, how to raise them in such a way that truly they will live out your kingdom life. Pray for those who are yet to join that you clear up their schedules that they can join us on time to have this discussion. Pray for our guests that you speak through her to us. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Please remember that I'm not seeing you physically, so I need to know you're there. So please respond when I say something. Thank you. All right. So I'm glad to see all of you. Today we have with us Mrs. Dorothy Saah. I met her in church. I think we might be related in a way. I think she actually sought me out because she realized that my last name was Addison, and I was glad to make her acquaintance, so to speak. And then I got to know that. Okay, so let me read her profile, so you know exactly who I'm talking about. So she's an educationist, that's early childhood, a pre-marital counselor, and also a marital counselor. She's also a parenting coach. She's taught in pre and elementary schools in Houston, Texas. She also works with children with special needs at the Lakewood Church, also in Houston, Texas. She has written and illustrated 2 storybooks and 12 textbooks and workbooks. She believes strongly that in this day and age, It is most important that parents understand the art of parenting right from conception to build a solid foundation for lifelong success. It is a desire that schools and parents to come together as a team to bring the best out of the child. It is for this reason that she seeks to coach parents on the right way to parent. Okay, and she's also been married for 40 years and has 4 grown-up children and 4 grandchildren. And so Dorothy, we are so happy to have you. So as I discussed with you, we'll have you share what you have, and then as you go along, if people have questions, they will type it in the chat, or if it's something that needs to be addressed, we'll do that, and then you continue. Then after that, we'll have another time of Q&A. So the floor is yours. Okay, before then, I just want to remind us that if we haven't subscribed to the YouTube, please go there, subscribe, and also share the link with others so that we can join our conversations and also learn with us. Thank you very much. So, yes.
Yeah, Abby, thank you so much. I wanted to know how many minutes do I have so that if I have to say something.
We're a bit late today, but I think you can do about 20 minutes if that's sufficient.
Okay.
And then we'll have the time of Q&A.
Okay. Yeah. So, actually, right from conception, as Christians, we have to start praying because we have different stages in pregnancy, and every stage has its own challenges. Okay. We have the...
Sorry, before you proceed, is it possible to see your face, or that will affect your internet?
That will affect my internet. You wanted to see, I'm not dressed up enough. I didn't know I was coming on.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so let me hide for today. Let me hide for today. And then subsequently. Yeah, so every stage in pregnancy has its own challenges. And depending on so many factors, there is something that we call teratogens, that is factors that do militate against pregnancy or the unborn child. Okay, so that one can slow the development of the child depending on whatever reason. And so nowadays there are a lot of ways of checking these things because you go through scanning and stuff like that. So doctors are able to tell you if there's a problem. Okay, so we have to check all these. And then the childbearing comes in. Even during the process of childbearing, anything can happen. The child can wound the cord around the neck or something. And so that, for the very, very first time in the child's life, he loses or she loses oxygen, and that can affect the child for ever. Okay, and there are so many factors, but today I want to dwell on the 4 styles of parenting. Now that you have had a child, how do you parent right from the word go to get the best out of your child? Okay, there are 4 styles of parenting. Because I don't have too much on my side, I'll summarize as much as possible. There are 4 styles of parenting. We have the authoritarian parenting, the authoritative parenting style, the uninvolved parenting style, and also the permissive parenting style. Okay, the authoritarian is what Ghanaians are very used to, where the child doesn't have a say. Once I brought you into this world, you have put a roof on your head and give you food and clothe you. You have to listen to anything that I say. And also, you don't contribute in any way in the house because you are not paying for anything, okay? and that parenting style has got its own pros and cons. And the cons are more than the pros. Okay. Every style has got its effects on the child. For the authoritarian type of parenting, the child in the end becomes very shy because he or she has been screamed on all the time. He's punished for the little thing that he does. And he doesn't, he can't even explain himself to anybody. So the child becomes very inward and the confidence level is very low. Okay, and also his self-esteem is so bruised that he can't express himself. The authoritative parenting is where parents actually sit down with their children and they pray together, they study the word together. The child has a contribution to give when it comes to how things should run in the house. And the child even prescribes what kind of discipline, that will be meted on him or her if he's not able to do, or he doesn't do what he's supposed to do. In that way, the child feels more responsible for his or her actions and is careful. That's the best way to parent, actually. The child is made to be responsible right from the word go. Whatever the child is able to do, he's made to do it. If at the age of 6 months, the child can hold his own feeding bottle, he's allowed to. If the child can eat on his own when he's 9 months old, he's allowed to do that. The child is made to tidy his room when everything is age appropriate. Anything that the child is able to do, nobody does it for him or her. He does it himself. Okay, and then we have the permissive. That the consequences or is that the child becomes very independent. The child is assertive. The child, has a lot of confidence and self-esteem and is able to express himself very well. Okay, then we have the permissive style of parenting. That one also, the child is loved just like the authoritative parenting. The difference is that the child in the permissive parenting style does whatever he or she wants. She watches TV as much as she wants. There are no rules in the house. She does whatever she wants. And she eats as much as he or she can. And so that style of parenting makes the child feel out of place because everywhere you go, there is authority. Everywhere you go, there are rules. So he's found wanting. He's found wanting because in the home, there are no rules. And then he goes out and it's very confusing for the child. The uninvolved parenting is also another style of parenting where the parents are so busy that they don't actually come into the child's life. They get up, they are in a rush to go to work or whatever. So the child has to take care of himself or herself. And, in that style of parenting, the child feels like, where am I? Where am I coming from? He feels like he left out. The child feels like he hasn't got anybody. And therefore, he feels like an orphan, although maybe the parents are still alive. I normally, what I do is I have my own Bible passage that I use for the parenting styles, like the sower who went out to sow seeds. Some fell by the roadside, okay, and they were eaten by birds. And then some fell on the rock. They sprouted nicely, but because they didn't have any dirt, they died. Some fell in thorns, and then when they started growing up, they were choked. And then some fell on good soil, and they bore fruits in 30-folds and 100-folds. So the authoritarian parenting is where the child is choked. I mean, I want to start from the beginning, from where the seeds fell by the roadside. Those that fell by the roadside are the permissive parenting style, where the child is just left on the uninvolved parenting style, where the child is left on his own. So people come in, the birds are intruders that come in. And if you don't take care, you lose your child because you don't have any control over the child. Other people have control over the child. The ones that fell on the rock are the permissive one, the permissive style of parenting, where, there's love, the child starts sprouting, but it doesn't grow well because the child is wild. It's allowed to do whatever he or she wants to do. The authoritarian style of parenting is when the child is choked because the child is not allowed to make any decision. The child is screamed at. There is corporal punishment. The child becomes fearful. That is, you are choking the child. That's where the seeds fell in thorns. You are choking the child. The child loses its shine, okay? Whatever God has put in that child is lost because he doesn't know what to do. He needs to ask questions. And he's afraid to ask questions. He's afraid because he doesn't know what daddy is going to say. He doesn't know whether he's going to be understood or not. Okay. And the best one is authoritative parenting, where the child grows nicely and bears fruits and benefits the whole society. So I want to end here so that if anybody has questions, then I'll be able to answer.
All right. Thank you so very much. So if I got you right, the different styles are authoritative, permissive, uninvolved, and authoritarian.
That's very good. Okay. You are a good student.
Thank you. I have a good teacher, I guess. Okay, great. All right, so I'll open the floor for questions now. I have a few of mine, but I'll let people start first, and then I'll ask mine. So if anyone has any question, you can type it in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask the question. So the floor is open, especially those who have children. What has your experience been so far? Do you identify any of these styles in how you've been training your children so far? So let the questions come.
Yeah, hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Comfort. Yeah,
yeah,
go
I haven't
ahead.
got any child, but then I was just listening and I just want to ask a quick question.
For the future, God willing.
Yeah, hi, Dorothy. Hello.
Hi.
That was a quick, but then very, very insight one. So I know you did say the authoritarian is the best one, but would you say all the four? Because I believe that some parents will use all the four, all the authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, and uninvolvement. Can we say all the four when you get a parents who can use all the 4 types instead of we thinking, okay, just the one is the best?
I mean, you can combine 2, but it's difficult to combine the 4. You can combine 2, like, for example, you can combine the authoritarian and authoritative. Okay. You can combine the uninvolved is a no.
Okay. But sometimes you can keep a blind eye though, can't you?
From everything that I have, every experience and everything that I have studied, a parent is supposed to be involved in the child's life. I mean, if you are not, I don't want to use the word dead, but if you are not around, you are not around, okay? But once you're around, you should be involved in the child's life.
Okay.
The bond, there should be a bond between the parent and the child. But the other 3, you can combine 2 of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Comfort. Any other questions or contribution from your experiences? Don't be shy. Okay, so Comfort sort of asked my question. I was going to ask which one is the ideal form of parenting. Okay, there's a question.
Yeah, the ideal form is the authoritative. Okay, the authoritative is where there are rules in the home and the child knows the rules and follows the rules. You are still in charge, just like the authoritarian, but in that case, in the authoritative style, you discuss things with the child. Sometimes we assume that the children know, but most of the times they don't know. So you have to communicate with them that in this house, when you get up, you clean your room, you brush your teeth, you do this before you go to school. So they are laid down rules and regulations, and the child knows what to do. And also in that parenting style, you yourself will have to be an example. You have to be a model for the child to follow. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the first question says, I'm hearing you say parenting is relationship and that we need to be present in any relationship, right?
That's yes. You cannot be an absentee parent.
Okay. Yeah. Jojo, is there a follow-up question to it? I feel like this is the first part of a full question. Okay, so while we wait for your response, we'll go to the second question. Francis says, how does a parent knowing oneself, in bracket, being sure of who they are, affect their parenting style?
Okay, the question again is,
how does a parent knowing oneself, as in knowing themselves, in bracket, being sure of who they are, affect their parenting style?
Yeah, I mean, parenting is one of the most difficult things, in this world, because you are nurturing. There's something we call nature and nurture. Okay, the child comes with her own inborn character, and like when you put a seedling in the soil and it's maybe bending, you have to straighten it up. Okay, and then the environment is very important. But the only thing I can say is that the environment should be conducive. Like if you put any plant in the soil should be fertile for, if you want the plant to, and you have to nurture it. You have to dig around the plant. You have to water it. You have to feed it. So your your personality, you know, affects the child in a way, but it's good to know the right way to do it. It's good to do. Unfortunately, there are no schools to teach anybody how to parent. I always say that firstborns are used like guinea pigs, okay? Because nobody tells your parent, don't tell you, and their parents didn't tell them. So it's always try and error, but then we get experience with time. Okay, so your personality, if it's negative and it has effects on the child, you know, it's not going to work out. Yeah.
Okay.
Have I answered the question? Did I answer the question?
Please tell us. Okay, so while we wait for him to, Jojo says there's no follow-up. Okay, so that was his question. The part about parenting being relationship. All right. Okay. Jojo says, I'm also hearing you say that children have wills or desires of their own, and that we should recognize that, and that the role of the parents is to guide in discussion and setting boundaries. So he wants to clarify what that's what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important that you know your child. You have to be observant. You have to observe your child, know the child's personality, who the child is. I always use Psalm 139, okay? That before the child was even a clot of blood in the womb, God had destined him for success. God knew who he was going to be. So as a Christian parent, what I will say is that pray a lot about your child. Know who he is and how to direct him. You know, I always use my son as an example. I have 4 children, and one of them said he wanted to be a carpenter right from the word go. When he was 5 years. Anytime you asked him what he wanted to do, he said, I want to be a carpenter. But we discouraged him. He went to uni and everything, did marketing, but he ended up becoming a carpenter.
Wow.
Yep. So don't impose yourself on your child. Observe the child, see where the interest is, and encourage the child. You know, yours is to be a facilitator, not to be, I mean, most of the time it's what we weren't able to do that we want our children to do. But we always miss it when we do that. You have to know that the child is a person created by God for a purpose. Yeah.
Thank you. Jojo, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so Francis came back. He says, was looking at someone who is not sure about themselves versus one who is.
Yeah, you are still talking about you, okay, but we are talking about the child here. And like I just said, that child is unique. It's a unique person. So as a Christian, you have to pray for God to reveal the character of the child. And also you have to observe the child, see, I mean, the traits, okay? And then see how you can help shaping. You are not supposed to impose yourself on the child. You are supposed to guide the child based on the character that the child has, the innate character the child has, and then you guide the child towards what God wants him to be, or what God wants her to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking at the question again, and I think I'm assuming, maybe Francis will clarify later, but I think what he's trying to say is someone who probably doesn't believe in their ability to parent. That's in, because he says, how does a parent knowing oneself, that's being sure of who they are, affect their parenting style? And he says that he's looking at someone who is not sure about themselves versus one who is. So probably someone who doesn't see themselves fit to raise a child. That's how I'm getting it. Versus someone who actually feels like they have that ability. I guess that and more of, so I guess more of self-esteem or self-worth. How does that affect how you parent your child?
Yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate that, like I said, nobody is taught how to parent. So we've all gone through things that we weren't supposed to go through. As authoritarian parenting, uninvolved parenting, permissive parenting. Nobody actually, when we're growing up, knew so much about how to parent. Okay. And there are interventions. Sometimes grandparents come in. Our society is such that we have people who can chip in to help. Okay, we have people, aunties, sisters, brothers, cousins, who are, and you also, as a parent, you also learning. You have to learn, because once you bring a child into this world, the onus is on you to make sure that he or she comes up well.
So yeah, he says that it is as I explained. Thank you, Francis. I hope as Dorothy has answered the question adequately. Okay, Dijon has another question. He says, would you say a father's role is mutually exclusive from a mother's?
Yes. I mean, we can never compare the two. We can never compare. A father is more authoritative than the mother. Okay. Sometimes, most of the times, when a child does something and you said, when daddy comes, I'll tell him, the child sits up. Okay. That's how God made it. We are. I mean, there are times when the men are even softer on the child than than mothers. So apart from the fact that men are the authority in the home, they are the head, they have to make sure that the child respects them, the child, respect the authority. But at the same time, we have fathers that are not hard enough. That's why it's good that the two of you are not the same. One is hard, one is soft, so that it balances nicely.
That's the good cop, bad cop style.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Francis says yes, you answered his question. Thank you. He says a great point. Always be willing to learn. Yeah, I like that point too. We're all learning. There are no hard and fast rules about parenting. We need God's guidance to teach us day by day. And I think that, Jojo has another question, but let me just chip this in. Do you think that the parenting style will be different with, let's say, if you have 3 children, the way you parent one, maybe the first one will be different from the second and the third? Can that happen?
Yeah. I mean, every child, like I said, characters. Yeah. I mean, you don't treat them as equals. Every child is unique. So depending on the child's personality, okay, it's not a blanket thing. Okay. That's where we have made a lot of mistakes. That's where we compare children. Okay, your sister is this and you are not that. But they are not the same. Although they come from the same source, they have different characteristics. They are very unique in their own ways. So you look at the personality of your child and know how to handle the child. Even when it comes to discipline, it shouldn't be a blanket thing. You should discipline according to the volume of whatever has happened. you know, and I have a whole topic on discipline, how to discipline a child without actually caning the child. Okay, but that one is for another day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talking about the difference in discipline, how can you do it such that one child doesn't feel like you're being too hard on them? Maybe that child might be slightly more hot-headed and stubborn than the other one, so you need to be a bit more firm with that child. How can you do in such a way that that child doesn't feel like you're favoring the others or being soft on the others while being too hard on them?
You know, that's why there should be rules in the house. So they know that if you break this rule, this is the how do you call it? Discipline.
Consequence, okay.
The consequence, yeah. Okay, my children, for example, anytime I went out and came back and there was an issue, I knew who did it. I looked at the volume of whatever had happened and I knew who did it. And they were always surprised when I said, "You did this." "Mommy, how did you know?" I said, "Because you are my children and I know you." Okay, so that's why observation is so, so important. Okay. You should know what this one is capable of doing and what this one is not capable of doing. And then you discipline them according to the rules that you have laid down yourself. They know that if you don't do your chores, you are not watching TV. They know that if you don't do your homework, you are not going to grandma's place. Okay, so based on the volume of whatever happens, you discipline the child. And there are some children that are disciplined, they are good. That are good. Okay, so there you know that they are not capable of doing some things. So you know what child and what discipline for a child and how to handle the child. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so the next question is, could you tell us what you think the goal of parenting is?
Yeah, I mean, parenting, it's a whole package. It's holistic. It's holistic, and it should be balanced. Okay. In Ghana, I think we have destroyed a lot of. Now things are improving. Things are improving nicely, but in our time, I think a lot of talents were destroyed because, like, when you want to know something, you are asking too many questions. You'll be told you are too known. Okay, you'll be told you are too known. You are stopped. And see, children have a lot of questions on their minds, and they need to ask. Okay, but in our side of the world, children are supposed to shut up. Children are not supposed to ask questions. Okay, so it should be a balanced thing. I mean, you discipline them at the same time, they have the freedom to ask questions. You should be flexible as a parent. That's the role of a parent. Be flexible, be balanced. Okay, don't met your frustration on the child. The child has nothing to do with your frustration. Okay, so know how to handle yourself, and then you can handle your children very well. The role of the parent, I mean, you see, the Maslow has this pyramid thing. The basic one is shelter, clothing, love. Love is so important. Okay, so these are things that are basic. The basic things in the parenting, the whole parenting thing is for you to know what to do and at what time.
Okay, so he was actually asking about the goal of parenting, not
the goal. goal,
Yes.
like GOAL.
Yes.
I mean, your goal is to get the best out of your child.
Mm.
Yeah, that's your goal, is to get the best out of your child. And I tell you, if you do it well, you get the best results. Like I said, the atmosphere, the environment should be conducive. When you and your spouse are fighting all the time, you don't know how much the child suffers. It should be like you put any plant in the soil, and like I said, the soil should be fed. You see, the environment should be that there's love. Okay, the child know that he's loved. Okay, that is the only way the child can grow up to be. I mean, some children are resilient, so it doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter the environment they are in, they can still thrive. But most children need a very conducive, like any other, any other seed you put in the soil, they need a conducive environment to grow very well. So if that's the goal is to get the best out of your child.
Yeah. Great. It reminds me of the passage in the Bible that says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they grow, they shall not depart from it.
Yeah.
Right. The next question is it always wrong to cane a child?
You don't have to cane a child. You don't. I mean, we all make mistakes. Does anybody cane you if you make a mistake?
Some of us were caned when we were young.
Yeah, that's why seriously, if you put a Ghanaian child here and a child, we have our good side. We have our good side. But I'm just making this comparison where we think that if the child is shy, then the child is a good child. No, the child should be able to articulate himself or herself. The child should be able to verbalize whatever, he wants to say. The child should be bold and confident. The child, you see, the only way creativity comes in is when the child has self-esteem. He knows that I have done this, I have been successful, and therefore I can go on to do the next thing. Okay. But if you cane a child, you put a lot of fear in that child. And it takes, some of us, it took a very long time for us to come out of our shells because so much fear had been put in us. It took a very long time, but you want your child to start being assertive whenever, doesn't matter the age.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you interpret what the Bible says in Proverbs 13:24? I'm sure most of us will think about that. It says, he who spares his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him constantly.
You have to discipline your child. You have to. The rod is the rod of discipline. Okay. It doesn't mean
it's not the literal rod.
No. Yeah. It's like I said, if you put a seedling and you realize the seedling is bending, you put a stick and tie it so that it straightens up. And there are ways of disciplining without using the cane.
Okay.
Seriously, I never caned my children, and they all came out well. I didn't.
But I guess someone else will also argue that the cane shaping their children as well.
But you don't realize, you don't know how much it takes out of them. It takes more out of them than it gives to them. Okay. It takes more out of them. Especially if you use the cane a lot, the child knows that I'm going to be caned anyway. Okay, so it doesn't make any difference in the child's life. So there are children who will come and just take out their hands. You cane me. So because he knows that's what you are going to do. But there's something we call I've forgotten this word. Positive reinforcement. Okay. There's something we call positive reinforcement. That's what we do in our prisons. And people go to prison and come back hardened. Meanwhile, people are supposed to go to prison and come back reformed. So we rather compound the situation, but that's not how it should be. We are supposed to resolve it. We are not supposed to compound it. Okay. So there are so many ways of discipline, getting the best out of the child without caning, without corporal punishment.
I haven't come across any, but have you seen any studies where there's a comparison between children who grew up being caned and those who didn't? Have there been any studies on that?
Oh, there are lots of theories. I did child psychology. Okay. And I know what corporal punishment does to a child. And unfortunately, I went through that, and I know what it did to me. So I can actually use myself as an example. Okay. I lost every confidence that I had in me. It took me a very long time to recover. You don't have to do that to your own child. Okay? You don't have to do that to your own child. There are so many other better ways of getting the best out of your child.
Okay. Let me just play the devil's advocate. I mean, someone will say that was your personal experience, that probably others will experience it differently. So what would you say about that?
No, I'm talking about child aspects. I'm talking about Piaget. I'm talking about Maria Montessori. I'm talking about people who took their time to actually study children, the various theorists. I'm not just saying it in vacuum. It's something that has been studied. You know, people have studied, not from one jurisdiction, people from all over the world. Child theorists have come to that conclusion that corporal punishment takes the shine out of a child. Yeah.
Okay.
That is negative reinforcement.
All right. So someone is asking for you to tell us the difference between discipline and abuse.
Yeah. The end result is so important. Okay. The end result is, if it's abusive, if it's going to have a negative effect on the child. Okay. If discipline is good, the child is reformed. That's why I gave you the example of the prison, the inmates in the prison. They go and they become hardened because of the very hard situation they have to go through. Even the way they sleep, you know, the way they are treated as if they are animals. Okay, you don't treat human beings like that. You don't. So what you want to do is maybe everybody who is bad has a reason. I'm not saying that we should entertain it, but if we're able to correct it, it will benefit society. If somebody goes to prison and he's reformed, he learns a trade, he goes back to school or something, it benefits society. In the same way, if your child is raised up very well without being hardened, it helps society.
Okay. The same person says, Dr. Mukowe, who authored Raising Future Parents, encourages using the cane within set boundaries. He encourages parents to learn how to use the cane. I don't know whether you've ever come across this person.
Yeah, I have. It's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing. But I mean, I have studied child psychology and everything. And I can assure you that I beg to say this, that Africa is the way we are because of the way we have handled people in general, because how we have handled maid servants, because of how we have handled people with special needs, because of how we have been very mean even on our own children. And so we have taken the creativity out of our children, and we have suffered too much for it. Children are not able to express themselves because they are afraid they will be beaten. Okay, I'm very passionate about this because, I told you I had a personal experience. Okay, and I decided that I wasn't going to beat my children, and I didn't, and they came out beautifully. You don't. There's a way of doing it. It's still discipline, but it's not corporal.
Okay. I guess this debate we'll leave that for another day.
Yeah.
We'll continue with the other questions. Okay. Someone has posted a comment. Says that clinical psychologist Jordan Peterson, who is not an African, also subscribes to a balanced approach of spanking children, not abusing. Okay, so like I said, we'll probably have to find another time and discuss this.
You know what happens most of the time, even the anger that we use alone. Okay, we use so much frustration, so much anger when we are caning children. I mean, people are. So when a child steals something, I read this in the papers all the time. They put the child's hand in water or oil or something, So when you are angry, you do things that you wouldn't do on the normal circumstances. Okay, so most of the time when we take up the cane, we are angry and we beat the hell out of the child, and sometimes we regret it.
Okay, so someone is asking again, so is that not why a parent should learn how to discipline children? So, like in response to what you just said about anger and how it affects how we discipline the children with the cane.
Yeah, I also asked you something. I asked you, as a grown-up, don't you make mistakes?
Yeah.
So why are you not beating? Why do you want to beat a child for making mistakes?
Well, I guess as a grown-up, I'm just saying, but as a grown-up, you're old enough to take responsibility for your actions. It's assumed that you've learned your lessons. Or the child, it's like you're now shaping them. So you want to make sure that they're learning so that they don't make certain mistakes they can avoid.
Yeah, so take things the child loves out. Like I said, if you don't do your dishes, you are not going to watch your favorite program. That is enough punishment. If you don't do your room, you're out to grandma's place, you'll be left alone with the maid or something in the house. It's enough punishment. There are so many ways to discipline than to actually beat. There's nothing. I'm telling you, it takes the best out of the child. It takes the best out of the child. It's painful. Okay, it's painful. Anything that inflicts pain on the child, you don't do it.
You're talking about physical pain.
Anything. I always say that anything you don't want to be done to you, don't do it to the child. I always say that because the child is also a human being. If you do something at your workplace, would you like your boss to take a cane and whip you? Whilst he can just suspend you or something. So if nobody does that, you don't do that to the child.
Okay. All right. There's another question I don't want to miss. It says, should I expect my sons to turn out like me and my daughters like their mother? So this is a guy speaking. Or should I expect that they mature in the image of God, since the creation story says God intended humans to be his images, expressing the fruit of the Spirit of God?
Yeah, like I said, yeah, every child is fearfully and wonderfully made. Mm-hmm. We are just, children just pass through us, okay? Mm-hmm. So, although they are character traits, although because of genetics and stuff like that, your trace passes through your children, okay? But that child is a unique child. That's why I said you have to observe your child. Take time. Observe your child. You know, I remember when I was teaching in preschool, and in the classroom, you saw, because they are allowed to play. Play is a very important part of a child's life. That's where the child is doing something on his own or on her own. Okay, then you see who the child is. In my typical classroom, I set up various centers. I have the science center, I have the math center, I have the dramatic center, I have the block center. So after circle time, you allow the children to go where their interest is. And you see when they are doing things they love, it comes so naturally. We force children to learn how to read and write too early, okay, without actually knowing who they are. But once you get to know the personality, the interest of a child, it's so easy to direct that child. Then the punishment doesn't even come in, because the child, as a facilitator, you know the child and you are directing him or her.
Okay, so we are looking more at they growing into the image of God, what God intended them to be, than
what you intend them to be.
Okay, Jojo, I hope that answers your question. Okay, there's another comment still on the discipline. So you mentioned that what we don't want to be done to us, we shouldn't do to our children. And he's saying, so I don't want to be grounded. Should I not ground my child?
Just 1 minute. Which market? Just a minute.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
Should I repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay, so earlier on you were saying about the discipline, that what we don't want to be done to us, we shouldn't do to the child. So someone has followed up with a question that I don't want to be grounded. Should I not ground my child?
So, like I said, you can be suspended from work because you did something wrong, right? That is being grounded. we are disciplined in our own way if we do something wrong, right? It's the same way children, like you are grounded. You cannot go out to play with your friends. It's a form of discipline. It corrects the child. It's positive reinforcement. Okay. It doesn't hurt the child. Okay. You are getting, at the end of it, you want results. It's result. Instead of putting fear in the child, you rather get the best result that you want. Okay. Instead of,
I think the emphasis is on we not doing to others what we don't want to be done to us. I think we sometimes we don't know that certain things that we don't want is good for us. Just like in our relationship with God, the way He disciplines us sometimes we don't like it, but it doesn't mean that it's not good for us. So I think that's the point that the person is trying to draw out here. That if we say solely that I'm not caning the child because I don't want to be caned, or I'm not doing this to the child because I don't want that to be done to me, then we are sort of limiting, or what's the word? I can't find the word to describe it, but it's not sufficient enough as an excuse, because it's not everything that we don't want that is not good for us. There are some things that we wouldn't want, but at the end of the day, it's good for us. So that's the argument. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, most of the time we come from a point where we say that this is my house. I am buying the food. I am buying the clothes on your back. Okay, so you have to listen to me. So, and we don't even explain anything to the child. We assume that the child knows. How many of us will sit down? Children, my mother never sat me down to tell me that when you wake up, you have to do this, you have to do that. But I was supposed to do them anyway. If I didn't do them, I was punished. But you see, if you're able to dialogue with a child, if the child knows that there are rules in the house that he has to follow, that if he doesn't follow the rules, there are consequences. I'm telling you, the child who's like, you are supposed to sweep the house. If you don't sweep the house, you will not eat your favorite snack or whatever it is. And then you come, the child hasn't swept the house where he's supposed to sweep. You say, so what is the consequence? He himself would tell you that I'm not going to get my snack, because that's what you have agreed on already. Okay, so he knows that he was supposed to do something and he didn't do, and that is the consequence that he's facing. Okay, I remember when we were young, even if you did something wrong and you were sleeping, they actually beat you or cane you in your sleep. That is wickedness. They will cane you in your sleep. You know, I mean, we treat, I always say that when we have our children, we are so happy. We are so happy. We have parties because we put on white because we've had a child. So at what point, I mean, do children become our enemies so that we want to met so much punishment on them? Okay, so
sorry, please finish.
So I'm saying that you can still get the best out of the child. It's also discipline without corporal punishment.
I think that what I'm hearing is the examples you are giving seem to be more on the extreme. I feel that there can be a good balance, where, like you're saying, you have rules, and one of them could be that, okay, if you don't do this, they're getting five canes in your palm, and that can serve as a deterrent. you let the child understand that I'm not caning you because I hate you, but it's just to serve as a reminder, that you're not supposed to do this, A, B, or C. I think, so that it's not the extreme case where you are actually out to hurt the child, but you're just trying to drum something into the child's mind. And okay, so someone is saying, will we? Sorry, what you talked about, denying them their favorite snack. Someone is saying, isn't that inflicting emotional hurt to the child? And he says that we will hurt our children anyway in the process of this.
How would you feel? How would you feel if you are caned? How would you feel if maybe your boss gave you something to do and you were not able to do it, and he said, come and lie down on a table, let me cane you because you didn't do what I asked you to do?
Like I said at the beginning, for we, the adults, it's expected that we are grown up, so we take responsibility for our actions. So caning is not the appropriate form of discipline. But with a child, we are now learning, So it's one of the ways for them to pick up good habits.
That doesn't mean you by all means want to use. By all means, you have to use a cane.
No. I mean, you can vary the disciplinary styles. There can be some time where you would have to, or other times where you could do with the other forms of discipline. Okay, someone is saying there is a qualitative difference between job relationships and family relationships. Isaac, if you can explain that a bit for us.
So the nature of the relationship that exists between people at the workplace is not the same as within the family context.
Okay.
That was the big point I'm trying to make.
Okay. Is it possible to
elaborate? No, I saw you write that, your boss is not your parent, but he's authority over you the same way a parent is authority over the child. I'm just saying that most of the time when we are using the cane, we are angry. You see, we are angry, and when we do it in that harsh mode, okay, that the child will sometimes even feel that you don't love him or you don't love her. We add force, a lot of force to it. Okay, once we pick up the cane and it has become so synonymous with anger. Okay, the cane is so synonymous. I mean, in the classrooms, I remember when a teacher would just come and use the cane for nothing. Okay, just because he feels like using the cane, or a parent is angry. My mom is angry with my dad, and that frustration is meted on me through caning. Okay, most of the time we have used the cane, even if we have to use it, we have used it with anger. And then the child feels like, I'm being punished. There's a difference between punishment and discipline. These are two different things.
Yes. So what I'm hearing now is, if we have to cane, we need to make sure that we control our emotions, especially anger, and focus more on correcting the child than hurting them.
Yeah, what we are looking for is results, okay?
Yes.
What we are looking for is the best out of the child. But it's because we have used the caning, in a very harsh manner that is no more attractive. It's not attractive to use the cane because there are children, whenever you even raise the cane, they are afraid. You haven't even used the cane on the child yet, but the child knows the pain that the cane inflicts on him or her. Okay, so immediately you raise up the cane. And most of the time we did it with, as if you are fighting the child. Okay, it wasn't out of love. So it has become synonymous to, caning has become synonymous to anger and punitive and stuff like that. That's why a lot of people, a lot of theorists, a lot of child theorists have delved very deep into it. They've used human beings that were not caned and human beings that were caned, and they have compared and realized how much shine is taken out of children who are caned. Yeah. It's not, it's people have really researched into this.
Again, we have Deodorus. It says that Dr. Mukowi instructs that we cane children when we are calm after pointing out the offense and consequence. So that's what I was saying earlier, that if we have to, then it should be done more to correct than when we are emotional and angry, and are likely to hurt the child.
But Abby, let me ask you this question. Have you seen anybody caning a child without being angry?
Well, I've seen a few.
Look back. How did he do? How did the person do it?
It was actually my mom. So she did it actually laughing about it, and then explained to us why she had to cane us. And when she was done, she gave us sweets. So at the end of the day,
percentage. How many parents caned their child, explaining to them why they are going to cane them and doing it out of love?
Well, I honestly can't give a percentage, but just to say that I have seen that done a few times. So what I'm saying is, I wouldn't totally dismiss the word, but I will say that if it has to be done, then as parents who want the good out of our children, we should do it right. And that is calming down, not reacting immediately when we are upset, but giving ourselves time. And then later on, if we're doing it, do it with some a more objective mind. That is to guide the child for them to do the right thing. Sorry, before you go on, Auntie Ikea has her hand up. So let me allow her to speak and then we'll continue.
Okay. Thank you very much and good evening, everybody. I actually agree a lot with the speaker because, the Bible does mention that spare the rod, and as people put it in an easy parlance, and spare and spoil the child. But looking back, I believe caning is it's like a shortcut to discipline. It's the easiest and the shortest way to do it, but it is not sustainable, and the effects usually do not last. Because for how many years can you cane a child? And if you continue caning, it comes to a point where the child rebels, may even take the cane, and when they are big enough. So I believe, we use God as an example, and that God disciplines those he loves. But it's the same God who says, come, let us reason together. So caning is a very easy shortcut when kids are very little. But then it fosters some kind of fear of you. They don't understand the reason why they're being caned most of the time, because some of the things children do, they do because they are children, because they are not any wiser. So the explanation as to why you shouldn't do that should come. I want to give an example. I'm quite old. I went to university primary school in Kumasi. In our school, there was no cane, but there was a blue book and a red book and a place where I'll call it the name and shame kind of tree. If you did something very bad, you stood under the Indian almond tree, and it was a very shameful thing for you to do. If you persisted, you went into the blue book and then you went out. All the time it was explained to you your antisocial behavior. That is why you have to be given time off to think about it. That is how I grew up, understanding why you shouldn't. You watch us in Ghana. When the traffic light is red, if there's no policeman, you would find it very difficult for people to stop, because the deterrent of physical pain lasts as long as the effect of the pain works. And when the perpetrator of the pain is not there, the person does not want to obey. So spanking a child, of course, you wouldn't pick a child up and explain if the child was going to put their hand in fire. That one comes with immediate action. Sometimes even a spank, but taking a rod, and I have been told that the shepherd's rod was actually a crook. It had a curve at the end with which they dragged the sheep back. It wasn't just to beat the sheep into smithereens. So I know a lot of us from our side of the world believe in caning, but the way we do the caning, I doubt whether that's what the master wanted us to use it for. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, too. What you just said about the rod and stuff actually reminds me of a sermon. I won't mention the name of the preacher, but in our church, and he explained the difference between the rod and the staff. What he said about the rod was that there are times when the sheep can be so stubborn that the shepherd will actually sort of injure their limb with a rod, such that now when they're going out to graze, they would have to put that injured sheep on their shoulders. And that actually fostered a bond between the shepherd and the sheep. So by the time the wound was healed and he sets the sheep down, the sheep was so close to him in terms of emotional and physical bond that it wouldn't stray anymore. Don't you think that that's a sign of or an explanation to the other passage that says sparing a child, sparing the rod?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Abigail. And sorry for taking much of the time.
No, it's fine.
I was typing in the chat box. Somebody said, if you make a child feel shame, isn't that also a negative effect? Yes. Spanking, telling the person to go aside to reflect on whatever they've done makes you feel ashamed. But it's not as if they told you, shame, go and stand there. No, go and stand there and reflect on what you did. It dawns on you that what you did was wrong and you feel shame. And that is a feeling you don't want anymore. See, that is why if you yourself come to realize what you're doing is bad, you don't do it. So that is number one. Number two, the shepherd breaks the leg of the sheep so that the sheep cannot wander away. I really think that one, using sheep as human beings is actually an analogy. we know we are not sheep. And sheep, amongst all the animals, are usually touted to be the tamest, the softest, the easiest to mold. We all know that if a goat is crossing the street, it's very hard for you to sort of kill a goat. But it's not that hard to kill a sheep if you're not careful. They are supposed to be dim-witted. Those who are agriculturists amongst us, or animal husband, that do animal husbandry, will tell us. So God likening us to sheep is to show us how meek we are supposed to be, how malleable we are supposed to be. But I don't think it equates our intelligence as being very dim. And therefore, when God says sometimes the sheep, the limbs have to be broken, this analogy tells me that sometimes in life, you can even lose a loved one. You can go through a very traumatic experience. God can break you. I don't think it means physical breaking of the limbs of your children to show that you are disciplining them, or beating them so much that they feel so much pain, equating it to maybe that kind of harshness. You know, when you do something wrong and you're a kid, you know you are wrong. When you are spanked, it's also a beating. You can do that with. But when you use implements, and in the anger, that's what I think the previous speaker said. Don't cane a child in anger. But usually when a child, where is the cane? Where is the cane? Today I'll show you. Like your mom did. When you take time, in fact, when you're not angry, how hard can you cane? If you recall that scenario where you were caned, you knew it was a perfunctory activity.
Hello? Oh.
Oh.
Hello?
Oh.
I'll take care. You're muted. Sorry. I'll take care, please. You're muted.
Was I muted all along?
Yes.
No. We're listening to you. It was for a short time.
Okay. So I think I addressed the issue of the broken limbs.
Yes, you did. We heard that.
Okay. So then I think I've said what I want to say.
Okay. But
Thank
you got to the point about my mom.
I said your mom, if you recall, I think your mom, what she did after she had calmed down and called you and said you are being caned or spanked or disciplined for such and such a reason, could not have been so hard as to cause you, inflict a wound on you or break any part of your body. Because when you are calm and you're disciplining a child and you say you are going to get 2 strokes because you did this, you will not use your whole strength and perhaps maim the kid. And the child also accepts that I deserve this punishment and I'll take it. Sometimes they prefer caning even to withholding of favors or a seclusion. Caning is very easy. Papa, you're done. And some people even develop some kind of resistance to it and it's over. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me just make my point clear. I didn't mean that we human beings have to have our legs broken. The way I understood is just disciplining as such that just like how the sheep is brought close to the shepherd while it's recovering. The same way when we're also disciplined, while we are learning, we are drawing closer to our parent and effect God. So that's what I meant. Not that we should also be afflicted or inflicted with the rod.
And Abigail, you see how we have been punished or disciplined actually shows. It tells on us so much. It tells on us as a people, we have lost something that God gave to us. And it's shown on the roads everywhere you go. The creativity that God gave to us out of Canaan has been taken out of us. And therefore, we are not shining the way we ought to shine. Okay, when Jesus, the children were coming to Jesus and the disciples were asking the parents to take them away, Jesus said, allow the children to come. Look at the love. See, there, I mean, as adults, there's so much we can learn from children. Their characteristics. There's so much, the love. They love you. There's no condition attached to it. They just love you just as you are. There's no, they are real. Children are real. Okay. There's so much. So we have to take our time and not treat them as if they are helpless or hopeless. They are not. They are also small adults. There's so much we can learn from them as much as they can also learn from us. We can also learn because when they are children, there are so much they have not been exposed to and they are pure. That purity we can learn from them. We shouldn't take it out of them. Okay, it's good for us to help them maintain it instead of beating it out of them. Okay, and also takes away creativity, takes away self-esteem. It shames them, makes them feel as if they are nobodies. And then see that the reason why, a Black person, when he gets into a certain position, wants everybody to know, is because right from the word go, we don't let the child know who he is. Okay, we shame the child, we don't respect the child, we make the child feel as if he's nobody. So when he gets into a position of authority, he wants to flaunt it around. He wants everybody to know that I had to work so hard. Yeah, I had to work so hard to get to, so everybody should know. But if right from the word go, you knew who you were, there was no need, or there is no need for anybody to know, because you know who you are already. All we want is to get the best out of children. That's all that we want. And there's people, we haven't researched, my people have researched. They've really delved very deep into it. And I will take the advice. And I will take the advice of God to God. I mean, Jesus. Jesus was in love with children, who was the friend of little children. And we have to be their friends. If we want to get the best out of them, we do have to love them. They need it. Yeah.
Thank you. So there are a few more comments. Let me read. So Deidre says, what about John 14, where the Lord talks about pruning? I think we talked extensively. Isaac says, I think we all agree that we should not be abusive toward children by caning. The dividing line here, from what I have gathered so far, is some of us, like myself, don't want to throw caning under the bus. We subscribe to a balanced approach, while others don't subscribe to it at all. I'll add, however, that if caning becomes habitual, there's probably some root cause the parent is not dealing with. Okay. And Jojo says that, Ma, just so everyone knows, I'm not advocating cane in anger. I'm not advocating cane in anger. All actions like that. And all actions like that. Okay, he's corrected it. Just so everyone knows, I'm not advocating caning in anger and all actions like that. Okay, so he's just trying to explain his point. So yes, I think like Isaac says, we all have different views about it. What I would say is for us to allow, okay, sorry, before we go on, Antiquary says, Theodorus, the word is remorse, not shame. Okay. So I'm happy that we are all airing our different views, and I mean it's my prayer that God will guide all of us by His Spirit to be focused on making or bringing out the best out of our children and focus on love, like you just said, Auntie Dorothy. The point is to do everything out of love. So, okay, Deidre says, thank you, Ma. So, our whole demeanor should be that of that,
love.
should be like that of Christ.
Yeah.
Where we want our children to be the best of themselves.
Yeah.
I
And
really
I hope we'll have the opportunity to discuss discipline, how to discipline a child without making the child feel shamed, okay, without taking the shine out of a child.
Sure. So we'll plan that and have another episode for that, so that we can talk extensively. Okay, so Comfort says that, thank you so much, Abby and Dorothy, very educative. I enjoy the part that says we should know the personality and the capabilities of our children before imposing anything. Yes, that I totally agree. I think our educational system has to be reviewed, because we are boxing everyone, putting everybody in one box most of the time. But there should be a way for children at an early age to discover themselves, their abilities, and there should be strategies to guide them to develop these abilities. So thank you to Comfort so much for your comment and questions. Our time is fast spent. It's been an exciting discussion. I'm really happy that it happened. That's why the technical hitches at the end. Auntie Dorothy, thank you so much. Please, you can give us your final remarks and then we'll close the curtain.
Yeah. All that I can say is that we need to observe our children. It's something that we don't do very well. Either we are too busy, or our culture is such that we don't take care to observe your child. You see, we should go back as parents and read Psalm 139 again. Okay, because he has predestined, he knows the end from the beginning. God knows the end of the child from the beginning. So we should go to him. We should pray that God himself should direct us as to, we are just custodians. We are custodians. And God will actually ask, or we'll have to answer to God what we did with that child that he gave to us. Thank you.
Thank you too. So Auntie Ikra says, caning may have a place, but it is a shortcut and last on the menu for me. It lends itself to abuse. That's true. Thank you so much. And Deirdre says, thank you, Auntie Dorothy. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to make it. All right. So we've come to the end. This has been the Abby IMANI Review Show, as always. This is where we speak, we are real, so that we can live. Today, we've been real about parenting. May God be our guide, so that the children put under our care will grow in wisdom and stature and favor with God and with man. All right, and Dorothy, can you please pray with us?
Father, we want to know more about children. We want to have the best out of children. You are the one who can give us wisdom. That we ask that you give us insight. You eliminate our understanding when it comes to parenting, how we should parent, how we should bring up children in the fear of the Lord, really, so that when they grow up, they will not depart from it. Teach us how to do this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As always, we can unmute ourselves, we can show our faces as we exit. God willing, we'll meet again next week.
Yeah.
Hi. That's Dorothy.